Welcome everybody to Self-Storage Income, and today we have a really important group discussion. We are in the middle of a major market change. Development has changed wildly due to the economic conditions and the conditions within the industry. So where should you be developing? Where should you not be developing? And what is going on right now, a lot of people are confused by. That's why we brought one of the top self-storage developers in the world here to talk about that. Forge, thank you guys for coming. Why don't you quickly introduce you guys to the audience? It's not the first time you've been on, but
it's been a couple times maybe. But
I'm Hamish Bell. I started and own Forge Building Company with Hayden Farrell, and we started in 2007. So I guess they call me the president of the company.
Title by default.
Yeah, definitely. That was a short straw between me and Hayden.
I'm Melissa Anderson. I'm the director of sales here with Forge, and I've been with them since 2021. And it's just been an absolute exciting time to be in the industry. And as you said, AJ, it's shifting a little bit. But I think with that, there's a little bit of excitement there too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, tons of excitement. Really excited to dive into this with you guys. I mean, this is what you live and breathe every day.
Yeah.
You guys have got the inside on all of it, and now looking forward to just getting into every piece.
How many facilities have you guys done now?
Oh, we've built over 500 plus facilities since 2007. Built over 60 million square feet of self-storage all over the country.
60 million.
Yes,
It's a little
bit.
And basically covers a few
Including
states.
Hawaii and Alaska.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Some real fun ones.
Yes.
That's amazing. And so you also saw the Great Recession, and you saw after that. And that is one of the things I'm excited to talk about, because within self-storage boomed, as you guys know, so much after 2016 and 17. A huge amount of the people, including I'd say the vast majority of builders, they weren't there. This is the first time that the majority of the industry has even seen any kind of contraction or slowdown.
We've talked about that with some of our employees. They've only seen, the boom.
Yep.
Yeah, the feast.
The feast.
Yeah.
Now they're going to have to navigate through, what's coming next.
Maybe start out with that real quick. Let's dive into talking about where the market stands today, right now, and how that has changed in just the last few years.
So I think we're definitely doing less projects than we were the last couple of years. We're probably 20 to 30% less year to date than we have in the last couple of years, but we were seeing out of control growth for a couple of those years. So now we're just finding ways to be more efficient during this period. There's still good jobs out there. There's still confidence with a certain amount of customers. There is less entry-level customers, I would say, and definitely the seasoned self-storage developer. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's looking for, and that's who we're working with.
That's an important point, because I think everybody needs to realize that you guys may be seeing a 20 to 30% slowdown, but you guys are also at the top in this industry. Like, you are known, you've done this, you're experts. So I actually think too that projects end up flowing to you during hard times, because all of a sudden, when as a storage operator, if I need to build this asset, I'm struggling with the bank or investors, and I need to have an expert. So
Absolutely.
I think you don't go to the other people that haven't been doing this. You can't risk it anymore. So during these times, projects kind of end up floating to you. So where you may be seeing a 20, 30% dip, other ones are seeing a gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not getting jobs anymore. And so it's kind of disproportionate for you guys, because you're experts at it. You do it. So there's trust in that, obviously.
And absolutely. I think that, the 20 to 30% decrease is probably a lot of the new clients. Our existing clients, the clients that trust us, that know us, they're still with us. And then those that are looking for that expertise, they are coming to us, because I'll tell you right now, I'm having conversations with GCs and with developers right now. They're like, hey, we're trying to make this work. Well, let's have a real conversation.
Yeah.
What do you need to make it work? And we're starting to have a little bit more negotiated conversations of what can we do to help? Oh, for instance, there was an opportunity where the GC was like, yeah, the developer's kind of wanting to wait and see. And the conversation goes, well, what others are waiting, builders are gaining. Yeah. And so if you can make it work, what is going to improve their confidence? Well, is there a possibility that we can go to our metal building fabricator company or manufacturer and see if we can lock in pricing? If we can lock in pricing with a deposit, will that get them to move? Mm-hmm. Sure enough, it did. It did. And so you start start having these conversations and you get them to make that move.
Yeah.
And you can't necessarily do that with some of the smaller companies. We are established. We have rapport with our suppliers and manufacturers. And with that, we can do that leverage.
Well, in development consistency, because the markets are going to change, but when you're developing and your cost basis that you're walking into it and market rates are X, you have that spread. Everybody went through COVID. We saw what happens when your costs go up by 30% on a $10 million project. They go, what? It's gone. Like that doesn't work. Luckily, during that time, rents were going up, right? So it offset it. But when you're in a market where you have rents and occupancies that are down, and then you have a fear of tariffs or market changes, that kind of reassurance that, hey, we at least know today that we can do this and that will be, that makes all the difference.
Yeah, it's stability is what we're offering. Yeah. So with the developers, we can offer stability on our pricing. Even with the market, the way it's changing, there's ways to hedge ups that we've developed with our manufacturers. So yeah, that's the stuff that we have now. In a down market, you've got to be more flexible, but give the stability to the developer is what they're looking for, so that they don't get that 30% increase on their budget from something like a tariff or can't control interest rates. But that's material prices. We definitely have more of a say in it than we have in the past.
Absolutely. I would say that it's very different from when COVID happened. When we saw that pandemic and we were seeing those price increases, the manufacturers were like, nope, it is what it is. Yeah. It's a different game this time. Yeah. They're being a little bit flexible because they're feeling it the same as everyone else. And with that, it gives opportunity to make things work.
Yeah, it's almost like that lack of stability. It's like, because people just don't know. Like they don't know how to handle it, how to navigate it. It's like, we just got to do the best with what we got and work together and figure it out. Because you can't take the hard line. But what are you guys seeing as the most, or the biggest struggle or hurdle with the developers you guys are working with?
It's getting them to understand to not wait. It's that they're wanting this waiting game of, well, we just kind of want to see what happens in the next 3 to 4 months. And, our messaging has been very clear. If your deal pencils out and the pricing is good now, go for it.
They're just hesitant.
Yeah, there's a hesitancy. Yeah. And really trying to do whatever we can to ensure that, hey, if you wait, you're taking a risk there too. Yeah. We don't know what's going to happen in 3 to 4 months. Yeah. If it works now, go now.
Yeah. No, devil, right?
So just so everybody understands and knows, development lags. So a lot of people think, oh, you develop, you just buy and build. Well, like we were talking, Amish, like if we could build, they could do it quick. Like that's the building part isn't actually the problem. It is working with the city. It's going through all of that stuff. That takes years, literal years. And so whereas the building, you could whip it up in 8 months, right? And but the city, the inspections, they pause things, they work through it. So what ends up happening then is if you have a 3-year lag, when market conditions change, you're finishing deals today that started in a completely different market. Absolutely. Like completely
different landscape.
And so you can't abandon when you're that late into the game. So the deals are coming out today were totally different. But if you started maybe a year ago or something like that, there's a lot of people that are, because not anything to do with even the building part, but it's rates. Yeah. Oh, rates went down. So now it literally won't pencil. The bank won't give us the money. So what is the abandonment rate that you're now seeing after markets have changed?
I want to say that year to date, projects that were canceled was close to 15%.
Makes sense.
But again, these were projects that may have started a while ago.
Yeah.
They're not projects that, hey, we just started 6 months ago and now we're abandoning.
Yeah.
These are ones that they've been trying to work through. And now that they've gotten so close to actually making it work, and one of the reasons that the abandonment is happening is, well, now the pro forma is not working.
Yes.
The rates are not there.
rates
This
aren't
is
there.
no longer a viable investment.
Mm-hmm.
However, there is still great value. If this client has gone through all of that process,
Yeah.
they've gotten the entitlement, they have construction documents. What we have seen in the past when this happens, it may sit for a minute, but somebody's going to come along and buy that project.
Absolutely.
And they're going to say, you know what, it may not work this year,
But
but if we wait, we think that, year 4, it's going to be really good.
we had that with the local developer I was out to lunch with, and I know he was working with you guys, but there's a location right on Eagle Road, great location. He was working with you guys to build multi-story, and it was like the rates within that 3-mile radius and everything. He's like, they went down. I can't make a pencil. But he's not abandoning it. He's like, we know the location's amazing, right? He's worked with you guys. He has the numbers. And he's like, I know it will turn out. I have to wait for the bank, for investors and everybody. So he's already projecting next year, right. To kind of start. So we do see that a lot, where we have to pause because of things that are going on out in the market. But that pause then puts that tail. You pause for 2 years, then it takes 2-3 years to build, right? It's 5 years. So now what we're looking at is this slowdown in supply. You're going to have a lot of markets that are going to go, especially smaller markets, because that's really hard to pencil. So they'll go years and no new supply is going to come on the market. Well, that pent-up demand ends up lifting occupancy and rates. That's why even with some of our projects, we're like, no, now is the time I want to be doing. So we built and opened up 2 projects this year, and even though rents and occupancies went down and there's been a problem, I'm like, this is actually the best time we could have done it because we're the only ones.
And you're ahead of the competitors.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It'll take years for them to put in new supply and catch up, and we'll get all of that. And 2, by that time, I wonder what the cost to build, land, everything else is going to be. So it's a little contrary, but also I guess I understand those are specialty markets. So that's the next question then. If they are going through, what is allowing, like what markets and what is the driving force in the locations that you're seeing that is allowing people to build? That's giving the green light, not a pause or a red. Like what are you hearing back from storage operators?
Technology is the name of the game, and how you operate your facility and the efficiency at which you can operate will depend on the technology you use. Your property management system, what it allows you to do, and what you have access will determine the outcome of how that facility performs. That's why we go with Tenant Inc. with their product Hummingbird, because they are the best in class. When dealing with automation, when dealing with move-ins, customer acquisition process, improving my online acquisition process, they are bar none the best. So if you are looking to automate your facility or operate it in a best-in-class way, make sure you guys are looking at Tenant Inc. and their product Hummingbird. The link is in the description.
It's a lot driven to where people are migrating to and where residential building is happening. And so if you look at that, like when I look at StoreTrack and I look at the new developments, just do the little new developments everywhere. The East Coast and Florida is like green. Like they're like on top of each other, right?
Yeah.
But we also know that people are moving to those areas and the residential is doing everything they can to keep up with demand.
Yeah.
We also see this quite a bit in the Boise market of, housing inventory is a problem here.
Yeah.
And as those developments, as those communities and housing developments are built, when I start thinking about it, it's like when you start building a huge residential development, there are certain things that you take into consideration. You're going to need a grocery store, a gas station. Storage is right in there.
Yeah.
You
part
know
of
what
the
I mean? It
infrastructure.
is part of the infrastructure. So when you see these big plans, it's going to take a little bit. So like there's this huge development that is going to be like, what is it, 1,500 homes? It's going to take a while for that to build.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah,
you can
years.
find a sweet little piece of property and you're not in a huge hurry to build right now, that's going to be opportune. You have to be able to look a little bit farther instead of just like, I want to build right here, right now, turn it around and expect it.
Yeah.
Like have a
Yeah.
little bit more foresight into what's going to happen 2-3 years down the road.
Because that's when you'll actually open.
Oh, and we've talked a lot about that. It's just being in the path of growth, right?
Yes.
Like really
Yes.
planning for that path of growth. You talk about those expanding cities in that handcuff zone where you got, one handcuff over here, one handcuff over here, which is one city, and then you've got those that are gradually migrating together and just being in that perfect position. There's, I mean,
Because that way, then, even if it slows down,
Yep.
and that was one of our
exactly.
projects that people are like, are you going to band it? And I'm like, no, because I'm building a 20-year project.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
If there's a slowdown in 2 or 3 years, and that makes me abandon a 20-year project, I shouldn't have been building there, honestly, in the first place. The only reason I should abandon it is if literally the underwriting won't work, so it won't pencil, so now we can't do it. But outside that, I'm not building for a quick flip.
That's
I'm
what I was
not
going to
building.
say.
There's a
How
difference.
many people are
yeah.
building to, exit, develop and then exit versus develop and hold?
Bet you've seen a lot of those people go away.
I was just going to say, those are not as plentiful right now.
Yeah.
It's more the people that are interested in holding for a little bit.
Yeah.
And they're not looking for a quick ROI. They're
Yeah.
looking for, hey, I know that this is going to take a while. I'm okay 10 years from now. Or we still have quite a few of those people that are wanting to build the legacy. They're wanting to build something that they are going to pass down through generations.
Yeah.
That is still happening.
Those are going to be some incredible markets to be in with those people that are having that foresight and who actually know, what they're doing. They're not going in and oversupplying a market, destroying things, going in for that quick flip.
Yeah.
Like those markets hopefully will continue to remain really healthy as that development
That's what
happens,
we
which
want.
is
I mean,
great.
I'm sure you guys saw, 3 years ago, especially, a lot of people that were like, I'm going to go in, and then what is the cap rate going to be that I can sell this at a CO deal, right? Like, just basically, I'm just flipping in the spread from what it cost me to build to what I can sell it at a 4 cap. There's probably a lot of those people
Well,
a few years ago.
that's
More than now.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. They're looking for quick money.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that what everyone's always kind of looking for? How can I make the most money the quickest? And for a while, self-storage is that buzzword. Ooh, I want to get into it. And
cash cow.
yeah, the cash cow. And we still get inquiries on a weekly basis. Hey, I'm just researching. I'm interested in getting into this.
Yeah.
And what I found to be very interesting, I was just at the Mid-Atlantic SSA show, and I was sitting at a table, and I actually heard somebody that was a capital raising type of person telling someone that was wanting to get into it, like, you know what, now's not a good time. You should probably, you're not in, so you don't have to get out. Just don't get in. And I interjected, and I was like, no. I said, there are still opportunities out there. That mom and pop may have had 100 people come and ask them to buy their property, but you may just be the one person that asks at the right time for their situation, and you get a yes.
Even too now there's not 100 people.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing I talk. If you're trying to get into the industry, whether that's development, whether that's buying, acquiring, is it better to get in when everyone is doing it and all of a sudden you're competing? Like, especially for me on development, the biggest threat to storage is storage. So when you're at like it was 3 years ago, my concern is when I end up getting this project out of the ground, is there going to be 10 more? And then all of a sudden we're in an oversupplied market where today I can look at it and go, that's not going to happen.
Right.
And so it is actually the odds, I believe, of being successful by buying are better when the core intrinsic value.
Yes.
I'm buying it at a better deal. It has better cash flow.
Yep.
We've already seen the pain. I can look at an asset and a location and I can see how it performed in markets that weren't amazing.
Yes, on performance and not comps.
Yes.
Like,
Right.
it was crazy, a couple of years ago when cap rates were
Everything was full.
going. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and all deals penciled out because
Yeah.
the rates were so great. Well, now if you can get something to pencil out and the rates are not great, your chances of success,
Yes.
it's fantastic.
Fantastic.
The risk actually goes down.
Exactly. And
Whoever that capital raiser is, shame on you.
But it's a good point though, because too, when you look at the, as this goes on, that time in the market wasn't reality.
No.
And that's the problem, is you're waiting for something to come back that I'm like, it shouldn't come back. We should never have that again. It was completely fake, government funded, like it was unrealistic. And I'm like, if you're expecting that time to come back, good luck.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
and the same goes for like when we had this big rush of business here at Forge. You have the pandemic, which caused a little bit of a dip. Everyone experienced that dip,
Yep.
and then there was this rebound effect.
yes.
And that rebound and that growth effect was unprecedented.
Yeah.
We're not going to have that same
Yes.
amount of growth, and nor do you necessarily want it. When you have such fast growth, it's not always healthy.
That breaks things.
Absolutely.
Do you think is that what you guys think is happening with what you're seeing with that reduction in jobs? Is it just going back to our normal?
I
Or
feel
like cyclically, what does that look like?
I believe so.
I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I think that it's going
good.
back to a more realistic state.
Yeah.
And we, as we were discussing before we started the podcast, was there are a lot of steel contractors out there that got into the game. There's so many self-storage facilities being developed. Hey, we're going to get into this. We're going to get into this. That was during a feast time. Now it is condensing, and you are going to be able to see who the real players are in this industry and who is going to bring true value to these developments. And that is where we come in, is that it's not just about, how we negotiate price. It's, hey, let's look at how we can value engineer this project. We have seen hundreds and hundreds of projects, and we can take a look at a set of plans or a set of an idea or a vision and say, you know what, if you did X, Y, and Z, this is going to be a cost savings. And if you're working with, other experts, how is that going to impact your operational side of it?
For sure.
And you come together and you come up with a more efficient plan, and not just, let's just go.
Fundamentals
build it.
matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, build it and they will come. Fundamentals matter. And
Well, the end user, it's like we would talk drive aisles and things like on our call that we had with our community just recently and stuff. And I mean, dude, every detail of that build is so valuable that
Yeah.
you've got to be working with folks like you guys to really understand the value engineer
Oh, my
and
goodness,
design
yes.
it for the end user.
people
Right.
look at building and they think it is simply what is the cost to build and what is the average rent, not rent, but square foot revenue. So
Yeah.
what was the revenue by looking around and what is the cost to build? And I'm like, that's not how storage works. If you have 12 different size units, you have 12 different products. Supply, demand, how people access them, how they use them is different across the board. So people look at general market rates and they go, oh, this market's $1.50 a square foot. But then they build it and they don't build it right. And their revenue is now $1 because they put the wrong products in the wrong locations.
Right.
They didn't do it right. So how you build it in storage dramatically affects the revenue you can actually achieve. Way more so than in other, like you look at multifamily, it's like, okay, you have a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, or you have a 2-bathroom, 3-bedroom, or like you have 3 choices here. Let's just get costs to where they need to be. You know what I mean? That's not storage. It is a month to month. People are making decisions. They're looking at the location. Access is important. How much you can charge will depend on quality. It'll depend on that individual unit in that place.
The experience.
Yeah, the experience
well,
of
one of the growth markets we have seen has been the flex space or condominiumized units. There seems to there was, I guess, less supply in that market. So we've partnered with groups like LuxLocker that are they're developing, and they've got a strategy that they're following, and they've been successful at it and finding good markets to put that type of product in. Like you said, with the 15 different unit sizes, that's basically what they've done. They've found a demand for that bigger unit, that ownership of that unit as well. And we've definitely seen growth in that area.
You niche down, you know that product, you know that market, and then you build to it, you build to suit. It's it once again, the market's not going to just bail you out for all your mistakes. So you can't make as many mistakes. And you need to be like, people that just promise, oh, I'm just going to get you a lower cost. You're like, okay, that's part of it. Like, you don't want, obviously, runaway costs, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll fix things. In fact, it can make things dramatically worse. And we've seen this with facilities here where they built it in a way that they couldn't even sell it. People are like, I can't fix this foundational thing. Why isn't it? I mean, like, I can't. You may have saved on the building 20%, but you can't sell it now. Right. And if you do sell it, it's at a huge discount. So we've really come back to, and that goes to the flip. That's the quick money. Save stuff on the building so I can maximize return when I flip it, right? And because that's gone and fundamentals are back, it requires people that understand those fundamentals. And how has this changed since 2008? So, like, let's walk through 2008, what happened there. How is today?
Well, 2008, the only people building were those legacy self-storage developers. They were in the game. They weren't new to the game. They had large portfolios and they were expanding that portfolio during a slow time in the market. And I think we're going back towards that a little bit, where the experienced people are the ones that know what they want, they know what to develop, and so that they're not guessing, they're not risking, they've been through it before and they've seen it, and so they're more comfortable to keep going right now.
How was the contraction in that development cycle? How long did that take for it to start to pick back up?
I think we had steady growth since that happened, to be honest with you, but obviously the last 4 or 5 years, that's when the rapid growth happened. It was steady growth up to that point. And then that's the way that we saw it as Forge. But we started in 2007 too, which a lot of people have said, you started a company in 2007, then went
But perfect timing.
Yeah, and we've had this conversation and we've looked back on the sorts of things that we did.
Yeah.
I remember we supplemented the work we did back then with different styles of steel building that they partner well with what we do now with self-storage.
Yeah.
So, talking materials, I know there's a ton of people out there. They're curious where materials are going, how things are looking, what the outlook is. Yeah, what kind of behind the veil do you guys have on that?
With our partnership with our manufacturing partners, we've got stability as of today till the end of the year. Basically, we can lock pricing pretty comfortably till the end of the year with the inventory that they're carrying.
And where they can source it.
Yeah, and where it's coming from. Our pricing's pretty good, solid to the end of the year.
And what does that look like right now? Where is pricing today, especially compared to
So pricing's increased because of the tariffs, but I think it's plateaued right now. I think we've gone through the majority of the heartache.
We got the price increase hit, and of course those suppliers were like,
how much was that?
About 15%.
15%.
Yeah, it varies on different products. But
I mean, if because you have the structural pieces and then the trim and the sheeting, so
the structural pieces,
10 to 15% is that range.
Gotcha.
How much have we seen a change in the last 5 years from when we were doing it pre-COVID? Like, it's changed a lot, obviously. And have those prices come down at all, or have they just always stayed up?
I think the beginning of the year was probably that was pretty low pricing for that time in the cycle for a commodity.
Yeah.
So we knew that this is a low price. It's only going to go up from here. We didn't think it could go any lower. So with our manufacturers, we hedged a little bit, and we got inventory that's going to cover us for majority of this year as well. So we do have the ability to hold pricing on jobs that we bid from the beginning of the year to today.
Pre-COVID, it would spike up and it would come down a little bit. It would spike back up, it would come down a little bit. It never comes down as much as it spikes up.
Never. Yeah.
And so we continue to see that cycle. You'll see it throughout the year in general, just because of supply and demand in the construction cycle.
The biggest issue during COVID was the availability of material.
Yes.
Because everyone was, all the labor was. It's hard to run a steel mill remotely.
Yeah, no joke.
So
AI's not fixing that.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and then we had a huge issue with supply chain and just getting it from other places as well.
So supply chain and supply of the material was a bigger problem than the actual increases back during COVID. Like we had the demand, we had the money, everything was there,
Couldn't get it.
but we couldn't get it.
Yeah.
And that carries in really well to lead times right now. We have fantastic lead times because it has kind of cleaned out a lot of that. We're slowed down a little bit. So now we can get fantastic lead times and get moving. But the one thing that I caution people that are kind of like on the fence, sitting and waiting, I'm like, what happens if you guys all decide to push on the pedal at the same time in 3 to 4 months? Now that demand is going to go up. You may not have as good a lead time.
It's another huge point of not waiting,
So go now when the prices are, for us specifically, we can offer some stability and we can offer good lead times.
Now, we're talking a lot about, material, lead times, cost. What about the product itself? As in, what has changed that how builders or how developers are building and what they're wanting to build? So products like, is it, what have we seen change, particularly in the last 3 years as markets adjusted? Because I know we had to adjust our projects because the market changed. So what are you seeing today from developers that is different? Like, are you noticing any changes in trends on just what they're trying to supply the market with?
Absolutely. So as Hamish had mentioned, we are seeing quite a few self-storage developers, people that have a lot of self-storage in their portfolios. They are adding that flex space to their portfolios. And they're able to do that in markets that they already have self-storage because it's a different asset class. So they are familiar with that market. They're familiar with that area, and they find an industrial piece of a parcel of sorts, probably a little bit less expensive than prime real estate for self-storage, and they're able to offer a different type of product. We're also seeing mixtures. So adding, a little bit of that flex space, a little bit of boat and RV, the drive up, the climate control. It's more of a full compassing facility versus just one type of product.
Yeah.
The individual types are still specifically studied on the region or the area that they're in.
Yes,
is
absolutely.
what's driving that. Like the flex space, the large condominiumized style of units, there's a whole demographic and a whole study that goes into them that's totally different to self-storage.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Different tenants.
Yeah, different tenants.
Different types of leases. They have different needs. It's not just, a roll-up door on the front. Maybe it's a roll-up door and a roll-up door on the back. Maybe it is a storefront and a roll-up door in the back. Maybe they need office space. Maybe they need a mezzanine, a bathroom. There's so much more considerations. And it is a space that doesn't have as much data and information as self-storage.
Yeah.
Like you can go and get, a market feasibility report for self-storage. Flex space isn't as
Dynamic,
well
it's
known.
not, yeah.
Yes. And so it's very interesting to see that they are adding that to their portfolio. Sometimes it's part of their facility. Sometimes it's completely independent.
Well, that's what we're looking at and doing. And I mentioned this before. We have facilities that we have the industrial and that flex part of it. The ones that we are building, we're looking at it because we go, first of all, we have our tenant base. We have people that use it for them, right? So we already have businesses that are renting units to use it as almost like a flex space. So it can go kind of hand in hand to a segment of it. Obviously not the big stuff, anything like that. But that changes a lot of the ways we look at access, like some of our properties, climate controlled drive up access. Because people that are business stuff, they want to be able to pull up, but they need climate controlled for the materials, for whatever they're doing. So that sells really, really well because it's catered to that. Drive-through units, like you mentioned, where we can pull in, we can load up trailers, we can do that, and then just exit out and go out that property. So I'm really interested in the overlap, and I think there's huge opportunity because what ends up happening is you have storage people that build for just your traditional storage, 10 by 10, 5 by 5, people that are moving. Then you have industrial, that's large industrial space, right? That's meeting that. And then you have this weird overlap of need and access where they don't know where to go because this doesn't work for me. but this doesn't really work for me either.
They don't need a 5,000 square foot warehouse space.
Yeah.
They're too big for their garage or for just a self-storage unit. And so what the industry calls it is small bay flex.
Yep.
And the small bay flex really caters to a very specific niche of people: contractors, retail, small distributors, a smaller warehouse. And as we were talking, if you get into a municipality or a jurisdiction that has a big need for it, that may just be the tipping point that gets your self-storage project approved, because now you're offering to fill a need that specific city has. And we have seen this in other self-storage developments too, where, we can't seem to get it passed unless there's some kind of, I don't know, low-income housing included in it or something.
Screening of some sort. So you're right.
Right. And so you kind of have to play this game with the jurisdiction of what do they want in order for them to approve your project.
And in Nampa here in Idaho, they've got specific code that you have to have your self-storage facility screened from a different use of business in their code to develop self-storage.
Yeah, that's perfect. Anyway, let's talk about this now. Let's talk about what is going on with cities. What is the appetite for storage? How is the viewpoint? Obviously, we know it's all over the board. Depends on the city. But in general, what is the majority? Have we seen a shift to? Is it getting harder? Is it getting easier? Or, we've gone through periods where they've been, like, in general, anti, but then they really started to open up. Where's that sit with what you guys are seeing? Because you're in a lot of states.
I was going to say, I think it is almost all over the place, depending on where you're at. And it depends on, they still have the feeling for it. There's one that we're looking at in Colorado. They are okay on having it on board, but guess what? We needed to have this very certain look. It's a very ritzy area, and it's going to have a very ritzy look to it. That's going to increase your cost of construction. Where, there are some that are still like, hey, we're still anti self-storage and we don't want to see it. So
it really is still all over the board.
I haven't seen a pattern other than I think I have seen the increased difficulty in building these things, just getting through the permitting process, just consistency with the permitting process. There's just lots of, honestly, I predict one thing and it's going to be something else that happens. But fire code's been a tough thing to manage with multiple different cities. They seem to have, I've had projects that have been permitted, reviewed, and built, and then the inspector will say, that is not my interpretation of the code, it's wrong. But like, your department reviewed it. Why are you not reviewing the same way they did it?
Yep.
And his opinion is they did it wrong. We've had to go back through, resubmit, and do that the way he wanted. So I've bumped into that more often than not lately. It seemed like that never used to be as big a problem as it is now.
No, that's crazy.
Timeframes have definitely expanded. And it's
even like on some of our projects that we've seen, just the amount of power that inspectors have, and obviously like there's a very real reason that they're there, and the value is absolute for sure, but there's got to be some better process that would allow specific timeframes to take place where it's not just they can come back however many different times, review it 48 times.
Find something different each time.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, no, you get your one review, has to be done within X amount of time. We'll fix those things and we're moving forward. Yeah. Like because we've seen it. On our Curtis project even, it was just like, okay.
Definitely. Yeah. I've seen it often, different states. It's not just, it's not consistent to one area. It's small towns, big towns. It's just more stringent. There's more.
I wish we could find a pattern, but it is all over the place. And
the only consistency is it takes longer and it's more expensive.
How do you help people navigate that coordination with those cities?
The very first thing you need is to have a good design team. You need to have a good civil, good architect, good structural engineer. And it really helps if the architect or the civil is familiar with the jurisdiction. If they know people within the approval boards, that helps immensely. You're going to get that most commonly from your civil, because the civil is usually local to wherever you're building the project, and they're the ones that are going to have that most familiarity. So when you're looking for that civil contract or that civil engineer, it's worth asking, hey, what has been your experience with getting things approved in this area? Ask every one of them. Get some feedback, because
Definitely self-storage experience is key
Yeah,
too.
oh, well,
Over local. I prefer dealing with someone that has self-storage,
Well-
because then you can put an educated argument, if you're in that argument point, on this is what I've done before, this is the way we've got around that. You have experience in it, so
And then they can
for the
contract
architect.
with the local person too if they need it. That's why we have it and offer that service, because we learned a long time ago that architect, if they aren't tied into that feasibility study, and they can't then tie into a builder that knows what they're doing on the storage side, you can't have the conversations that need to be had. Like we found on the Statesman, where we were looking at, and then you came in and said, hey, we can save all this money without using the support system, right? So, and then everybody's talking that same language. And then the architect can say, yeah, but the feasibility showed that we need to have X amount of units over here because of access and what we need. So I did it this way. And then the builder can look at it and say, okay, well, what if we did this over here? So you optimize the asset, as opposed to, I ask this to people all the time. How did you come up with your unit selection?
oh yeah.
All the time. And they're like, well, the architect looked at it and they divided it up amongst these 6 unit sizes, basically evenly, and just put it where they could. That's it. And the architect wasn't specialized in storage. They do other things, right? So it was a math problem and a placement problem on the spreadsheet that determines the outcome, right, of what units go where. And I'm like,
we've had multiple projects designed by someone that haven't even studied the market.
No, I haven't studied the market. And then one of the things we see often, if it's an architect that is not familiar with self-storage, is that they're like, yeah, I just want the hallways to go this way. And we're like, well, that's great, especially if it's a multi-story. You can't just be switching the hallways. There's a specific way that the load-bearing walls align up, and there's an efficiency to that. It doesn't mean that we can't build it, but it's going to cost a lot more in steel. So when we start looking at, and we want our roof to go this way. Okay, well, if your roof purlins are going this way, your hallway needs to go this direction.
Yeah.
And so there's these considerations that architects are just like, if they're not familiar, they just put in this floor plan. They're like, they have a hallway going this way and a hallway. I mean,
we definitely have the most success when we partner with someone
absolutely.
early, and it's a collaboration.
Yes.
It's not you did it wrong.
Exactly.
Because the minute you say that,
then
you've got an ego. You're dealing with different issues. So we like to come in early, show our expertise, and offer the assistance on this is the way structurally we want to design it. This is why. And typically when you go through the process that way, it's more of a collaboration than a...
Well, people, how they do it, they're like, okay, I'm going to bid out the architect. All right, this one came in cheaper. Okay, that. And most of the time they'll say, oh, they've done storage. It's different if a guy has done a couple storage projects that versus actually understands the industry, that actually understands, right? But then they look at it, okay, these guys have done a storage project or whatnot. You're the cheapest, I pick you. Make the plans. Now go out to the builder. All right, builders, here you go. You're the cheapest. Put the plans. You've all built maybe a storage facility. Perfect. And then the builder goes in and builds it. And they're optimizing, right, for cost. And what they miss out then is on revenue. And 2, just because the cost is cheaper on what you're paying for it doesn't mean the cost of the project is cheaper.
No.
And I don't think people understand that, because when you build it, you can do things that optimize revenue while optimizing cost in a way that is specially designed for storage. And then your total project savings is lower, but your revenue potential is higher. That's the spread you want, not the spread on, I got some bids and they're the cheapest, right? And then I can go out to the market and look what a 10 by 10 cost. And that's not the spread you want, because it's like you're pricing a project off of what the milk cost and you're ignoring the cow. Like, You know what I mean? Like it's
Not
okay,
an
there's
organic
that,
cow.
but it's like the cow is what gives you the milk. The cow is what
Right.
is the value.
All of this stuff you can study, you can learn from. You guys offer all of these services for new developers. You know, existing developers don't have as many questions because if they've built before, that they know what they want to build and what their business plan is. But the new developers, you can really study the market. You can secret shop. You can find out the rates. It's all of that information's there, and with just with the people in the room here, you can lead them down the right trail to have a successful project. But there's still a certain amount of ownership that needs to be from the person that owns it.
Absolutely. They've got to decide it. At the end of the day, right, we can collaborate and do it, but then the person that's owning it, you give a price, you're going to do the project, you're going to do what the owner wants.
Yep.
They are the ones that are paying. It's their project, right? You have to do that. So at some point too, you guys you have to do what the owner wants. That's why
Definitely.
what you talk about, first of all, going in and having everybody on board early, because
And everybody.
Everybody.
You know, get
Everybody.
your consultant,
Yes.
get your design team,
yes,
get somebody else that's done it
Builder,
before, just to
architect,
give
your
you a little
finance
bit
guy.
of mentorship.
Yeah.
Like you bring
Management.
everyone to the
Management
table.
company.
Management.
Yeah.
yes,
Bring
either
them
you're
in
the management
earlier.
or the management company needs to be included in that. Instead,
Absolutely.
they do everything separate, and they bring in the management company after it's already done and built everything. And you're going, they would have all worked together, that project could have been just the value creation, the cost savings, the input that each one of those specialties would see and understand. It's funny because it makes sense when you say it. It's like, yeah, why wouldn't you have everybody involved that has to do it to make the project? But we actually, not the system, but structurally how we go through and do the process, right? They don't do that. And that's a major, major hindrance. And what it actually does is you find out from the next person that you bring in, oh, there's problems here. Then the next person that you bring in, and then the management company, well, I can't do that. Access doesn't work over here for that. And you're like, oh, if I would have known that. And you're like, yeah.
Well, that's
And
exactly what happens. What you just did, finger pointing.
Yep.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
When
right.
everyone's not in the room together,
100%.
Yep.
it's harder to point the fingers when you're sitting
Yeah.
across the table from them.
And the management company did this, and you're like, I
Yeah.
did what you told me to. That was
You were right there with the owner, with the
Yes.
architect, with
Bingo.
the building company, the whole thing.
And it's a misconception that, well, I'm going to do it because I'm going to save money and I'm only going to bring in the different people at the different times. But what that does is it ends up costing you so much more than if you just bring everyone to the table in the very beginning. And like even down to like surveillance and video and the
Yes.
programs that you were going to use, that is important during your design process.
If you're going to operate it automated versus not, I think about this a lot because I wasn't in real estate, I was in business. And when I looked at this, the process that everybody goes through, we would never do that in business. You would never start a business and then have your product design team come in, and then the marketing team come in, then the finance team come in, then the manufacturer come in later on, and just start adding people all the way down, only to find out that what you want to build, the cost to build it, now you can't, and the marketing team's like, we can't even sell it. And you're like, and you have all this inventory and this building, and you're like,
So
wow.
true.
Like,
It is so
we would never do that. But then people do it with storage, and I'm like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's a real estate type mind frame, but that's the nuances that come to with storage, why it is different than an apartment building.
And there is a simple process if you do get everyone in the room. Milestones that everyone achieves along the way. So it's a check set as you're developing the set of drawings basically to build your project, that there's certain milestones that everyone wants to be involved in the whole way through.
I think it's just having those experts have the input
Exactly.
and being able to share, like, these are considerations you should be having at this point in time. And it may not be that the surveillance and video sub needs to be in every single meeting.
course.
You know, it's, hey, let's get everyone on the same page. You create, just like you would a business plan, create a plan for your self-storage business. It is a business.
That's coming from the input of all the parties that are building it, as opposed to you create a business plan you start shopping out, adding in, and adjust your business plan as you have to. And that creates a mess of things. And especially in today's market, when costs are important because cost of building's high and the market has shifted. Occupancy is down. Customers, what they want has shifted. We've seen shift from certain types of units.
Competition's heavier.
Competition's heavier. So how are you going to compete? How's that third party managed? Like, this is all really, it's more important than it's ever been because the market's not just going to bail
every
you out.
piece of it's important.
Every
piece of it.
Yes.
The design, you know, from the starting entitlement all the way through to the finished management. It's every piece of it, and every piece that the person whose name is on it, who owns it, understanding it is better for them. And that's where you see success, is when they get into the granular understanding of each position along the way, because that is the business, self-storage. So now they're learning each piece of it along the way.
And you can't change it afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, once it's done, you're like, all right, what is this, a 50, 100-year asset location, right? You could never change it now. The cost was the cost, the building was the building. In order to change it, you have to tear it down, you have to redo it, you have to, and so it's like...
It's not very forgiving.
No, it's not.
Well, we do jobs for U-Haul and public storage where we're not involved in that. We get a set of plans, they know what they want, they've got teams behind it, they're handing the plans out. But that's with a complete team of knowing what they want to do.
They've got all that down.
Yeah. So that's the difference. We do work for people that caliber that, here you go, build this.
Yeah. That's rare, though. That's not most people.
That's not the majority of our customer, but that is.
But that is, they come in, they've got it down. It's a machine. It's dialed in.
But if that is what you see is working, then why wouldn't you want to mimic it?
Exactly. Exactly. You should mimic what they do, and you don't have to hire the people. You don't have to do those things.
You can do that on an individual project basis by yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, heart of the message here, find the experts, get them in the same room, go for that enterprise value. Don't just sit there, try to save cost, maximize value. We always talk about you can pull a couple levers. You can maximize value or, reduce cost. Development, maximize value all the way. And again, get those people in the room. Just imagine how much cost you're saving yourself in the long run, how much value you're creating in the long run by getting those people together, by coordinating with folks like you guys, and not making the plethora of mistakes that will absolutely happen if you don't do that.
Yep.
I think, my work speaks for itself. The references that you can give, that someone can give, is key.
Yes.
That is an easy way to weed out whether you've got someone that's built a lot of storage or someone that's just learning to build storage.
I ask this all the time. They say, oh, they've done storage. Okay, they've done storage, but do they do storage? That's not the same thing, right? Like, just because they've done a project or two is different than this is what we do.
Eat, breathe, and sleep.
Yes. Yeah. That is not the same thing. Like, when people are like, oh, so you're a real estate investor. I'm like, no, I'm a storage company. It's not the same thing. I don't own a couple things. We have a storage business. We are a self-storage company. It's what we do, right? And I think that that's really important for people to realize, because when you're not an expert in it, when you haven't done it for 20 years, the only thing you can do then is rely on other people. So I always talk about it. They go, well, I'm unsure because I don't have the expertise, and I'm unsure about developing or building because there's all this risk. And I go, you can offset all those things that you don't know. You can offset that lack of experience, but you have to do it with people that already have it. But that's amazing, because then I don't need to have 20 years of experience. I don't need to have all this. But what you do need is to make sure that the people that you're working with are so far above you in expertise and time and everything else that they make up for any of that lacking that you may have. And then you put them all together in a room like we're talking about, you're going to see all sides of it. You can listen to each one of them and how they talk about it. And then you can rely not on even an individual source. And that should bring you a set of confidence when going into it, that you're like, I don't need to know everything. And, when we built our first storage facility, we'd been in storage, but I never built anything. Nothing. Well, I never built a chicken coop. I don't even know how to build a birdhouse. I didn't know anything. And so it really was, you got to rely on those experts. But where is the market headed over the next 4 years with development? Are we going to see a quick rebound, or is it going to plateau, or are we still going to contract some? Like, based upon your pipelines and everything, what are you guys seeing?
Well, I did a research article recently that was just published today, and it was basically talking about the state of the construction industry and self-storage. And in 2025, it was like 56 million square feet of new supply. Next year, they're projecting it to be 10 million less than that. So we are seeing a little bit of a shrinkage there.
Yeah.
However, that's still a lot of square footage.
Yeah, it's still a lot.
And so, it's about going after the good projects that people are confident in doing.
And so you've probably seen too, the projects that are going away, you're probably seeing a concentration, right? Like how, and I'm speaking this from our experience. If I know that building cost, because over the last 5 years, they've gone up, right? They've gone up a lot. And you can't, when we talk about, cost savings, like you were talking about optimize for value, Connor, versus cost, you can only affect those cost savings so much. The material is the material. You know what I mean?
Labor's labor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can only do so much. So with that known, that means the major factor in determining the viability of that self-storage project will be much more on the market rates, on that revenue side. So what we've seen is there's a whole section of markets where there's like no development going on, and then there's other markets where there's lots of development going on, like, because you just can't make it work. It doesn't pencil. But then in markets where it does, and they're fast growing, it's a tale of two cities, I view.
Really
It's like great storage markets and then nothing. Like no one's building in these markets.
I think you're going to stop seeing, we've seen a little bit of this in this town, the storage streets where there's one, there's multiple on one street, or they're being built opposite sides of each other.
Yeah.
I think that's going away.
Yeah, that will be.
And that probably needed to, right? That
Yes.
was overbuilt.
Yep. Very strategic. Or how about automation? Are you guys seeing smaller facilities as opposed to the just big bombers? Take Boise out because all they do in Boise is big bombers. But outside Boise.
Yeah, we just did 260,000 square feet.
Exactly. Got to take those out. So
That's like 5 facilities.
So are you seeing a trend towards more automation and smaller, not a huge, but instead of it being 120, like 100? Have you seen any change like that, or is it going the opposite?
We're still seeing quite a few of those 3 stories, 4 stories. You're going to have your big players. All the REITs are still building those in different areas. However, the single story facilities that are under that, 70,000 square feet, they're definitely looking at automation. How can we do that? And then not only that, but if they have facilities that are in close proximity, how can we use virtual management at those facilities? We're definitely seeing some of that.
Well, I could talk. We could sit here and talk about this all day. We've already taken so much of your guys' time. One thing I would ask, could we get that? You mentioned that report.
Yes.
Would you mind getting that or having a link that we can put in?
Yeah, absolutely. I will
people?
send that to you. It's the latest blog that just came out.
Okay. And is that on your site too?
It is on our website, but I'll just, I can
send it
send it
to
to
us.
you so you can add that to the podcast.
Wonderful. And where can people go to get a hold of you guys, learn more about you, ask anything that they're trying to understand the market or the building process?
Feel free to email at sales@forgebuildings.com, or you can visit us at our website, which is forgebuildings.com. Reach out to us. Our phone number's on there, request for quote, message, and we'd be happy to reach out to you and chat with you about anything.
Instagram.
Oh yes,
all
LinkedIn.
the
Yeah,
social-
all the
social.
social medias.
All right.
We're on them. I don't know if we ventured
YouTube
into
channel
TikTok.
even, right?
Oh
I was
yeah.
gonna say, you got Hamish out there on
YouTube
TikTok,
video.
dance videos.
You're on my YouTube videos too. Yeah, because we got the Statesman projects and everything else. So you guys can go
Fantastic.
check that out. So you guys are on our YouTube videos. But we'll put that all in the bio, or not the bio, excuse me, the description, everybody. So all the links are there, and get that
Perfect.
report so people
Yeah,
can see it.
I will get you all that information.
And you guys will be at the event too.
Yes, the
Okay,
live
good.
event.
Good.
Yep.
Self-storage income in
Is it the Sun River?
Sun
Yep.
River.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
yep.
Sun River.
Yep.
I am so excited about this
gonna be
event
really
this
I
year.
love Coeur d'Alene though.
I know.
That
We
was a-
outgrew it.
Yeah,
really.
We
It's fun.
outgrew it.
That
It
was
was
a great
like,
spot. Like,
oh, it was.
Yeah, love
we
that
couldn't believe
place.
it when they're like, nope, we can't accommodate you. You can't get in next year. We're like, no.
yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
It'll
We
be
will,
Enjoyed that beautiful spot on the lake there.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
But thank you guys for coming in. We appreciate
absolutely.
it as always.
It's been
Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you.
so much, guys.